Hello friends, Michael Shainbloom here. In today's video, I'm going to cover the only 3 filters that I use, why I use them, and I'll also show you some examples of how I've used them. This is just my personal experience, the equipment that I've used over the years, and what I've found to be the most helpful for my photography. Before I dive into the actual filters, I'm going to talk really quickly about square versus circular screw-on filters. I've been asked a lot which one is the best. There really isn't a right answer. It's purely based on preference. I find that these square filters are a little easier to use because you end up using this adapter and you can just slide the square filter in or out really quickly and easily. You can also stack filters a little bit easier with this. And I've also found a little bit less vignetting with the square filters. But, of course, the circular filters are nice because they are a lot smaller, a lot more portable. They fit in this tiny little pouch. So if I was bringing 3 filters, it would look like this. I mean, it's tiny. I can fit these in my pocket. Whereas something like this with 3 filters, probably not going to fit in your pocket. I would say for my own photography, I probably use these filters more. I just love that you can clamp these down. I can also pull the filter off by just pulling this little tab. I just find these screw-on filters, if I'm rushing to chase the light, it's a lot harder I find myself not being able to screw these in when the light is changing, and I'm like, and I'm trying to rush and I get all flustered and I can't seem to get the filters on. You know, again, personal preference. All right, so let's talk about the first filter. This is an ND64. This is my most used filter. It is basically just a 6-stop neutral density filter. So you throw this in front of the lens and it's going to knock down 6 stops of light, which is usually enough to give you a nice long exposure at sunset, sunrise, and I do find myself shooting a lot at those times. I've been able to do time lapses with these things, just throw it on to get a little bit of a long exposure on my time lapses. I use these things all the time. I also use this for video too. All right, filter number 2, ND1000. This is a 10-stop filter. This knocks down a lot of light. So this is perfect for doing long exposures during the day. And I do a decent amount of long exposures during the day, and I also like to shoot 30-second exposures or minute-long exposures sometimes at sunset. This is what you're going to want if you're going to want to knock down a lot of light out of your camera. So if you like those silky, smooth, long exposures where the water looks super milky, this is probably the thing you're going to want for that. So one quick tip with these 10-stop filters is you should compose your scene and your image before you throw this thing on your camera. Because a lot of the times it's going to be very hard to see the composition when you throw this on. It's knocking down so much light, I can barely see through it. So when you're looking through your viewfinder or in live view, it can be a lot tougher to see your composition while this is on there. So what I'd recommend doing, set up your composition and then slide this in, or if you're using the screw-on filter, you'll need to screw the filter off and then screw it back on, which can be kind of annoying. So for my third filter, this one's actually one of my favorites. This one's probably second for me behind the 6-stop filter. This is a Cpl, Circular Polarizer. And what I love about this filter is not only does it change the amount of light that's entering the lens of the camera, it actually changes and alters that quality of light, or at least what your lens is seeing. So I use this a lot for cutting out reflections. So if you twist this, you can change the polarization and change the amount of reflection you're cutting out of the image. This can be used to enhance rainbows or remove rainbows, as I unfortunately learned in New Zealand, but it's also used for cutting out reflections in like a rainforest. Let's say you're in a rainforest setting and you've got those reflections off the foliage. You can twist this and then you'll get a little bit more of that lush green color out of your foliage. Let's say you're shooting at a waterfall and you've got the reflection from the sky, but you really want to see those nice boulders and pebbles that are underneath the water. Use one of these and you'll be able to see it. And also, even if you're not trying to cut out reflections, this is also great for deepening the contrast and colors in your sky. So if you point this 90 degrees away from the sun, this isn't going to work if you point it straight towards the sun or straight away from the sun. It needs to be 90 degrees from the sun or relatively close to that angle. That's where you're really going to see the effect of the polarizer. But you start twisting this and you'll notice that you're going to start seeing those deep, rich colors in the sky even on a hazy day. So I've taken days that are less than ideal, kind of hazy, kind of gross, twisted this and gotten a lot more contrast and vibrance out of the scene. If you're one of those people who just doesn't like shooting long exposures, you have no interest in shooting long exposures, this is definitely going to be your filter. This is the one that I would highly recommend using. Cpl Filters, I always have one with me. As far as brand goes, I mean, most of these are PolarPro filters. This video is not sponsored by PolarPro. I have the Summit system here, which I do like the ease of use of this system, and I've found the filters to be really high quality. But honestly, I've used probably 10 companies in the past. I think even one of these is a Nissi filter. Most of the companies are competing with each other, so they're making really great stuff. If you want a really great smaller company to check out, I definitely recommend Breakthrough Filters. I've always had good success with their stuff as well. But yeah, just pick a brand, go for it. Now, I've been asked a lot about Gradual Nd Filters. No, I do not use them. These cameras are getting so good now that the dynamic range is great, and you can just throw a gradient down in Lightroom or in Photoshop and get the same results that you probably would with a graduated ND filter. If you don't know what a graduated ND filter is, it's basically where the ND filter starts at the top and then it gradates down into being translucent on the bottom, so you really only knock down the light in the top of the image. I just don't find them that helpful anymore. There was a time and place for using graduated NDs, and it's fine if you still enjoy using them. I just have found them to be a waste of space in my bag. So I think that's going to wrap it up. These are the only 3 filters that I use for my landscape photography. So now I'd like to hear from you. Which filter is your favorite? Which ones do you like using, or do you just not like using filters at all? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I really appreciate you watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.